So it's my last night in the 2020 Honda Civic Si, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to go for a night drive. Show you guys how this thing handles in the wet, how that front diff does, and show off the headlights, interior lighting at night, and sum up my experience this week in this car. The more I drive this SI, the more I do appreciate it as a daily driver. This week, just driving normally, I've averaged 38.5 mpg, which is just amazing. I can't believe the fuel economy this Earth Dreams engine gets. Yeah, it doesn't have VTEC, but boy, does it conserve fuel and really get some impressive numbers. On a road trip, tucked in behind traffic, you'd be averaging over 40 miles to the gallon on this thing. Let's try with traction control off. See how this diff operates on its own. Again, one of my favorite features of this SI has always been that Honda's offered a mechanical limited slip diff. Nothing in this price point has ever quite been there. The Veloster N is close. It's a little bit more expensive, but not much. I found the Civic Si to be more of a 7/8 car. The more you push it, the more it tends to show some of its shortcomings with rev hang. But it's such a good daily driver. For those times you just want to go for a quick blast, it's got the power, it has the torque to pull you out of corners, it has the traction. And you know, the Honda Accord is a phenomenal car, but it's gotten a bit big. It has a pretty large footprint on the road, and this Civic is just a little bit more manageable. It'll fit in your garage easier, it's easier to place on the road. It's a little bit lighter. And at 26 grand, it's a lot cheaper. Unless if you go for a base Accord, of course, but I've got a good amount of steering feel too. I can get a pretty good idea of what the front tires are doing in the wet, which I think is important. Aside from right there, I've noticed that there isn't really a lot of wheel hop in this car for being front-wheel drive. You don't get that violent wheel hop on launches that you do with Veloster N, for example, and a lot of other front-wheel drive cars that I've driven. Turn in on this is really sharp. It's definitely a good chassis. And it's a fun car to drive. If you can get past the active sound control and the rev hang, which can probably be tuned out quite easily, you've got a pretty decent driver here. out of sport mode, even the ride quality is really impressive. Let's take some corners here. Is impressive. Even in the wet, we've got great traction. The first time I drove an SI, it was at Road America, and it was about 38 degrees Fahrenheit, pouring, raining, and I had literally no traction whatsoever. And if you've ever driven Road America in the wet, it's a disaster. It is so sketchy. There's a lot of oil and grease on the track, and it just turns into a skating rink. So I was a little bit curious tonight how this SI does on all-season tires in the wet, and it's 38 degrees tonight. It's the same temperature. It does great. It feels awesome. In my last video, I did a sound test with this, and I am happy to report the sound system's pretty good. Honda hasn't always been known for the best audio quality. That's kind of been Acura's niche, but this SI, I'm impressed. I would totally be happy with this on a day-to-day basis with the sound system quality. And that is an important factor with this class of vehicle and this price range, I think. I have a couple complaints that still stand. The collision mitigation system is a little bit untrustworthy. And radar-guided cruise control works well for highway stuff, but on side streets and back roads, I've had some issues where if a vehicle is merging over into the right lane and slowing down, this car will also slow down for no reason, and that's not good. So it's a little bit of a buggy system. I hope Honda fixes that with software updates in the future going forward. Overall, it's a pretty good system, but it does have some flaws, and it's not always perfect. So you do have to stay aware. You have to keep your wits about you. It was just last week I looked up on AutoTrader Veloster N prices, and I noticed that Veloster N performance packs, at least here in Michigan, were going for $27,000, brand new, straight from the factory floor, 10 miles on the odometer. Now, when you compare this Civic Si to a Veloster N performance pack, it's a completely different class of vehicle. Even compared to the standard base Veloster N, they're very different. I've been seeing Veloster N's without the performance pack for $23,000, $24,000 dealers brand new. And I think probably Hyundai's having a little bit of trouble moving them. That's why they're marking them down. But from a performance standpoint, I would completely prefer the Veloster N, hands down. But from a daily driver standpoint, it'd be a tough comparison. This Civic Si it's not as weird. It's more spacious. It's a little bit more practical. You have more room in here for life things. The back seats are pretty usable. The Veloster N doesn't really have a usable back seat. It's pretty tight back there. The shifter in this Si is better. It's it's a little bit of a toss-up. It's kind of depends on what you're looking for. If it were my money, I'd probably swing for a Veloster N, but at the same time, I don't know if that would be able to serve all my needs as a daily driver. Hyundai has done such a good job with their N division cars, at least so far, with the Veloster and over in Europe, the i30N. I do hope people buy them because they are phenomenal. And there are some things that I wish Honda would do to this SI just to bridge the gap between this and the Type R a little bit more. It's a good car overall, but this doesn't even come close to being in the same class as the Type R. It's still a Civic, but that's kind of where it ends. There are some similarities in shift feel. There are some similarities in the interior and the cabin and how the car's laid out, but the Type R is such a different beast in terms of performance and driving feel and overall character that there's not really a comparison to be made here between the two. And really the car that kind of splits the difference between those two cars is the Veloster N. And gosh, there really isn't much else on the market anymore. There used to be the Fiesta ST, the Focus ST, but those are gone. Someday manufacturers will start putting in better reverse cameras. So, yeah, that kind of sums up the SI for me. It's been a good week in this car. We're going to be posting a lot of stuff on this on Windy Road's YouTube channel, and Charlie from Daily Motors also going to be doing some stuff on his channel. He's taking this down to the Tail of the Dragon later this week, and really going to be putting a lot of miles on this. I'm curious to see what he gets on the highway with long-term fuel economy on a road trip. And I think we'll have some fun with this car on the back roads as well. It'll be a good vehicle for that. So, yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions. I've had a few owners chime in on my last video, the full review of this SI, saying how much they enjoyed the car and some of the things they like, some of the things they don't like. The complaints that I had in my review, I think, are all livable things. There are some workarounds that you can solve them with. But overall, I think this is a pretty nice car. I don't know if I'd pick it over the Veloster N, but it is a different level of performance and usability and practicality compared to the Veloster N, and that may sway some buyers in one direction or another. So my recommendation would be to go drive everything, see what you like the best, and make your decisions from there. Cool, guys. Well, thanks again for watching. We'll see you in the next video. We have a Jeep Wrangler Rubicon diesel this week that we're testing. And that's a pretty awesome vehicle. A little bit of a departure from the Civic SI, but it's good to get into some fun cars again. It was wintertime. It was cold. It was bleak. We didn't really have any snow this year, but in Michigan there aren't a lot of fun press cars in the wintertime, and it's good to be getting back into some stuff that isn't a massive truck or SUV, honestly. Anything under 4,000 pounds feels amazing now. Alrighty, we'll see you in the next one. Take it easy, guys. Thanks again.